The worst thing that can happen to an unsupported man is not being ignored. It is being accepted too early by people he still needs. Because when a man enters a room without leverage, he does not enter as an equal. He enters as debt. He calls it networking. He calls it mentorship. He calls it finally getting close to power. He tells himself he is being strategic because someone replied, someone invited him, someone introduced him, someone gave him a seat at the table. But beneath the handshake, beneath the polite message, beneath the invitation, there is often a silent transaction. You wanted access, so you paid with independence. You wanted proximity, so you paid with leverage. You wanted someone to open the door, so you entered the room already owned. There are 5 stages to this trap: access, obligation, silence, compromise, control. Most men only notice the last stage, when they can no longer speak freely, negotiate cleanly, price themselves honestly, or walk away without fear. By then, the relationship has already shaped their behavior. By then, the room has already trained them. By then, what they called opportunity has become a leash. This is the hidden cost of needing people too early. And it is especially dangerous for the man who has been unsupported for too long. The man who has been doubted by family, misunderstood by friends, ignored by society, left to figure out life without guidance, without backing, without a network, without anyone placing a hand on his shoulder and saying, "I will help you build." That man is vulnerable to access, not because he is weak, but because he is hungry. And hunger, when it is not governed, makes a man negotiable. Need makes you agreeable. Need makes you laugh at disrespect. Need makes you accept vague promises. Need makes you stay quiet when your instinct tells you something is wrong. Need makes you call exploitation experience. Need makes you confuse being included with being valued. Machiavelli understood this because he understood men without illusions. Power borrowed from others is never free. The man who becomes the source of your movement can also become the owner of your behavior. This does not mean every powerful person is evil. That is childish thinking. Some people will help you honestly. Some alliances are real. Some doors should be entered. Some rooms are worth reaching. But there is a fatal difference between alliance and dependency. Alliance is formed from strength. Dependency is formed from need. Alliance says we can both gain. Dependency says, please let me stay close. Alliance can walk away. Dependency cannot. Alliance negotiates. Dependency obeys. And if you try to network before you have built skill, proof, visibility, and a clear offer, you do not enter relationships as a man with value. You enter as a man hoping to be rescued. That is when access becomes debt. The first stage is access. Access feels like victory. Someone with status gives you attention. Someone lets you into the room. Someone replies to your message. Someone introduces you to a person you could never reach alone. Someone says your name in a place where you have wanted to be seen. And for the unsupported man, this can feel intoxicating. Because he has been outside for so long. He has felt invisible for so long. He has watched other men get guidance, family backing, referrals, warm introductions, social proof, and quiet advantages that nobody admits exist. So when a powerful person finally notices him, his nervous system mistakes proximity for progress. He thinks, this is it, this is the opening, this is the door. But access is not power. Access is only proximity to power. Standing near powerful people does not make you powerful. Being invited into the room does not mean you have leverage in the room. Knowing someone successful does not mean their success transfers to you. A room full of powerful people is not an elevator. It is a mirror. It reflects what you bring, or it exposes what you lack. If you enter with skill, proof, results, and a clear offer, the room can multiply you. If you enter with hunger, insecurity, and desperation, the room can consume you. This is where many men become foolish. They worship the room instead of asking what they bring into it. They become excited about the invitation and forget the exchange. They are so grateful to be near power that they stop asking whether they have any power of their own. But power always asks simple questions. What do you control? What can you produce? What problem can you solve? What evidence proves you can solve it? What do you make easier, faster, richer, safer, or more valuable? If you cannot answer, access only exposes your emptiness, and you will feel it immediately. You will speak carefully. You will hesitate. You will over-explain. You will hope they like you. You will laugh too quickly. You will become grateful for crumbs of attention. You will start managing your tone, your opinions, your price, your standards, and your boundaries around the fear of losing access. That is the first sign you entered too early. You are not evaluating the room. You are trying to survive it. Access without leverage creates emotional debt. And emotional debt is more dangerous than financial debt because it hides inside your behavior. No invoice arrives, no contract is signed, no one has to say, "You owe me." You simply begin to feel it. You begin to adjust. You begin to make yourself easier to keep around, which leads to the second stage. Obligation. At first, obligation feels noble. Someone helped you. Someone gave you a chance. Someone introduced you. Someone shared your work. Someone let you stand near their status. So of course you feel grateful. Gratitude itself is not the problem. Gratitude becomes dangerous when it turns into self-erasure. You begin to feel that because someone gave you access, you owe them your agreement. You owe them your availability. You owe them your loyalty. You owe them your silence. You owe them your time. You owe them emotional obedience. And this is where the debt becomes invisible. No one may be forcing you, but you begin forcing yourself. You reply faster than you want to. You say yes when you should say no. You accept vague terms. You undercharge. You tolerate delays. You let boundaries slide. You avoid hard questions. You do not challenge weak ideas. You do not correct disrespect. You do not protect your time, because some part of you fears that if you stop being easy, the access will disappear. And maybe it will. That is the point. If the relationship only survives while you are obedient, it was never an alliance. It was possession disguised as opportunity. This is why the unsupported man must become extremely careful with people who help him before he has leverage. Not paranoid, not bitter, not isolated. Careful, because the person who gave you access may not be evil. They may even like you. But if they know you need them more than they need you, the structure is already decided. The man with more options has more power. The man with fewer options adapts. This is not morality. This is structure. And structure does not care how kind people seem. A smiling person can still underpay you. A friendly person can still keep you close because you are useful, cheap, loyal, and afraid to leave. A generous person can still benefit from your dependence. A mentor can still become a master if you turn his approval into your oxygen. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims." That sentence is not only about politics. It is about every man who lets immediate need override long-term power. The need to be chosen, the need to be seen, the need to finally belong. The need to be near someone stronger because building alone feels too slow, too lonely, too heavy. And this is where many men sell themselves cheaply. They do not sell their soul in one dramatic moment. They sell it through small permissions, one unpaid call, one vague collaboration, one free favor, one delayed payment, one extra revision, one introduction that makes them feel indebted for months, one sentence they should have said but swallowed. That is how dependency begins. Not with chains, with gratitude that loses discipline. If you are serious about building power without support, then you need a different order. Skill first, proof second, visibility third, offer fourth, alliance fifth. Not alliance first, not access first, not mentors first, not important people first. Because when you seek people before you have proof, you ask them to believe in potential, and potential puts you beneath them. But when you bring proof, you are no longer begging for belief. You are presenting evidence. That difference changes your posture. A man with proof does not enter the room asking to be saved. He enters asking whether there is mutual advantage. A man with an offer does not beg for attention. He diagnoses problems. A man with visibility does not depend on one gatekeeper. The market can see him. A man with skill can rebuild. A man with options can walk away. And the ability to walk away is the beginning of freedom. Before we go deeper, if this message is hitting the exact place you have been living from, the place where you are building with no support, no network, no one opening doors, then I created the Patreon collection called Succeed with Zero Support for men in that position. It includes more than 30 uncensored video lessons with a clear path for becoming capable, valuable, and hard to ignore when nobody is helping you. The link to the collection is in the description and in the pinned comment. Now understand this clearly. Networking is not the enemy. Begging in polished language is the enemy. Mentorship is not the enemy. Turning a mentor into a substitute father is the enemy. Collaboration is not the enemy. Accepting unclear terms because you are afraid to lose proximity is the enemy. Powerful rooms are not the enemy. Entering them before you have leverage is the enemy. Because once obligation takes hold, it begins to shape your tongue. And when a man loses control of his tongue, he is closer to being owned than he realizes. Silence is the third stage. And silence is the tax you pay for borrowed access. At first, it feels like discipline. You tell yourself you are being patient. You tell yourself you are being mature. You tell yourself you are reading the room. You tell yourself that powerful men do not react emotionally, so you swallow the truth and call it strategy. But there is a difference between controlled speech and controlled identity. Controlled speech means you choose the right moment to speak. Controlled identity means fear chooses for you. You see something wrong, but you do not say it. You disagree, but you soften the truth until it becomes harmless. You are treated poorly, but you call it patience. You are asked for too much, but you call it loyalty. You are underpaid, but you call it experience. You are disrespected, but you call it humility. This is how dependency corrupts the tongue. A man who needs the relationship cannot afford honesty. He becomes diplomatic beyond reason, pleasant beyond dignity, strategic in the worst way. Not strategic to gain power, but strategic to avoid abandonment. That is not wisdom. That is fear wearing a suit. The moment you cannot speak the truth because you might lose access, you have discovered who owns the room, and it is not you. This is why needing people too early is so expensive. It does not only cost money, it costs voice. It costs posture. It costs clarity. It costs the ability to say, "This does not work for me." It costs the ability to disagree without panic. It costs the ability to walk away without feeling as if your future has collapsed. Silence may protect the relationship in the short term, but it weakens the man in the long term. Every time you swallow your standard to keep access, you teach yourself that access is more valuable than self-command. Do that long enough, and you no longer know what your standards are. You only know what keeps you included. and men who live to remain included become easy to manage. A man can survive being disliked. He can survive being excluded. He can survive rejection. But he cannot build real power while training himself to betray his own judgment. The unsupported man must understand this. You were not ignored so long just to become grateful for a weaker cage. You were not doubted so long just to hand your voice to the first person who gives you attention. You were not abandoned so you could spend your life auditioning for approval in better rooms. If your future depends on another man continuing to like you, you are not building power. You are renting permission, and rented permission can be removed. This leads to the fourth stage. Compromise. Compromise does not begin as collapse. It begins as small adjustments. One free favor, one unpaid call, one unclear project, one delayed payment, one extra revision, one soft boundary, one request that feels slightly wrong but not wrong enough to confront, one bad agreement you accept because the relationship might lead somewhere. That phrase has ruined many men. It might lead somewhere. Maybe it will. But where? Toward leverage or deeper dependency? Many men accept bad deals because they are emotionally bribed by future possibility. They think, if I do this, maybe he will introduce me. If I keep helping, maybe she will recommend me. If I stay close, maybe something bigger will come. If I prove loyalty, maybe they will reward me. This is servant logic, not strategic service. Servant logic. Strategic service has structure. It has terms, it has direction, it has measurable movement, it creates proof, money, positioning, skill, or a stronger relationship with clear mutual benefit. Servant logic gives value without terms and hopes. Gratitude becomes opportunity. But human gratitude is fragile. People quickly normalize what you give repeatedly. What begins as generosity becomes expectation. What begins as help becomes your role. What begins as opportunity becomes unpaid labor with status attached. And because you wanted access too early, you accept it. You tell yourself you are playing the long game. But sometimes the long game is just cowardice with patience. A real long game still has structure, a reason for sacrifice, a point where the sacrifice ends, a standard that cannot be crossed. If none of that exists, you are not investing, you are bleeding. This is where a man must become brutally honest. Are you helping because there is a real strategic return? Or because you are afraid that if you stop being useful, they will forget you? Are you accepting the vague opportunity because it builds proof? Or because proximity to their status makes you feel less invisible? Are you staying loyal because the alliance is strong, or because you have no other door open? These questions are uncomfortable. Good. Comfort hides debt. Discomfort reveals structure. Compromise becomes dangerous when it changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a man building value. You start seeing yourself as a man who must stay useful to stronger people so they do not remove him. That is not power. That is domestication. And domestication is subtle. No cage is needed when a man learns to censor himself. No chain is needed when fear of exclusion governs his choices. No master is needed when he becomes grateful for permission to remain near power. This is how compromise becomes control. Control is the final stage of dependency debt. At this point, the man may still believe he is networking, but his behavior is no longer his own. He chooses based on access. He speaks based on access. He prices based on access. He tolerates based on access. He hides his real opinion based on access. He shapes his identity around what keeps him acceptable. And because he entered the relationship without leverage, he lacks the one weapon that protects freedom: the ability to walk away. That is the core of power. The ability to walk away. If you cannot walk away from a client, they own your peace. If you cannot walk away from a mentor, they own your judgment. If you cannot walk away from a friend group, they own your identity. If you cannot walk away from one opportunity, that opportunity can deform you. This is why money matters. This is why skill matters. This is why proof matters. This is why visibility matters. They are not just business tools. They are instruments of independence. A man with skill can rebuild. A man with proof can be trusted elsewhere. A man with visibility can attract new opportunities. A man with a clear offer can create transactions. A man with standards can reject poison. But a man with only access must protect that access at any cost, and the cost is often himself. Now, do not misunderstand this as a call to become cold, antisocial, or paranoid. Only a fool rejects all human connection. Money moves through people. Opportunity moves through people. Reputation lives in people's minds. Alliances matter. The question is not whether you should know people. The question is, what version of you enters the relationship? Do you enter as a man with value or as a man with hunger? Do you enter with proof or with need? Do you enter with an offer or with a plea? Do you enter with options or with fear? The same relationship can multiply you or own you depending on what you bring into it. If you bring leverage, the relationship becomes an alliance. If you bring desperation, the relationship becomes a leash. This is why the order matters. Do not seek access first. Build leverage first. Skill, proof, visibility, offer, then alliance. If you build skill first, you have something to trade. If you build proof, people do not have to guess. If you build visibility, you are not dependent on one gatekeeper. If you build an offer, you can create commercial exchange. Then, when you network, you are not asking to be rescued. You are evaluating mutual advantage. That is real networking. Not collecting high-status contacts to feel important. Not begging in professional language. Not asking powerful people to compensate for your lack of construction. Real networking is two forms of value, recognizing possible exchange. Now make this practical. How do you know you are needing people too early? First, you feel nervous asking for fair terms. If you are afraid to state your price, your scope, your boundary, or your condition, you are not in power. You may still make the deal, but do not lie to yourself about your position. Second, you overvalue attention from important people. If one reply from a high-status person changes your mood for the whole day, your nervous system is too dependent on approval. Attention is not proof. Attention is not power. Attention is not progress unless it moves something measurable. Third, you accept vague opportunities. If someone says, "Let us collaborate," and you agree without defining outcome, roles, timeline, ownership, or compensation, you are entering fog, and fog favors the stronger party. Fourth, you keep giving value without a path to return. Service is strategic when it builds proof, trust, money, positioning, or competence. Service is weakness when it only protects access. Fifth, you cannot walk away. If losing one relationship would make you feel destroyed, you have built too much of your future on another man's permission. These signs are not insults, they are diagnostics. They show you where leverage is missing. So what should you do instead? Build before you beg. For 90 days, reduce your dependence on access. Choose one skill, build measurable competence, create public proof, publish consistently, sharpen one offer, send outreach based on diagnosis, not need. Build a portfolio that makes your value legible. Start small transactions, collect results, turn those results into more proof. This is how a man becomes harder to own, not by becoming isolated, by becoming useful in a way that is visible and transferable. Transferable value is freedom. If only one person knows your value, they have power. If the market can see your value, you have options. This is why public proof matters. It prevents any single gatekeeper from becoming your entire future. When your proof lives publicly, one person's rejection is not the end. When your offer is clear, one ignored message is not the end. When your skill is real, one lost client is not the end. When your reputation is growing, one closed door is not the end. Options are the antidote to dependency, and options are built, not wished for, not gifted, built. This is exactly why I created the Patreon collection, Succeed with Zero Support. It is for the man who has no family backing, no useful network, no warm introductions, and no one coming to save him. Inside, there are more than 30 uncensored video lessons, organized into a practical path for building competence, proof, leverage, discipline, and independence without waiting for permission. The link to the collection is in the description and in the pinned comment. There is another danger you must avoid. Some men hear this and use it as an excuse to become arrogant loners. That is not power. Isolation can build strength, but isolation can also become fear dressed as independence. Some men say they do not need anyone because they are afraid to admit they do not know how to deal with people without surrendering themselves. The goal is not to avoid people. The goal is to meet people without needing them to complete you. The lonely man avoids people because he fears dependence. The sovereign man engages people without surrendering control. That is the standard. Before you seek alliances, ask yourself 3 questions. What do I bring that creates measurable value? What proof shows I can create that value? Can I walk away if the terms become corrupt? If the answer to any of these is weak, you are not ready for alliance. You are ready for construction. There is no shame in construction. Construction is honorable. Begging is not. Neediness is not. Self-erasure is not. Calling dependency, networking is not. You must become honest about the motive behind your relationships. Are you connecting because you have value to exchange, or because you are secretly hoping someone will save you? Are you seeking a mentor because you need correction, or because you want a father figure to relieve you of responsibility? Are you asking for introductions because there is a clear mutual benefit, or because you have not built enough proof to earn direct trust? Are you collaborating because both sides win, or because proximity to their status makes you feel less invisible? These questions reveal whether you are building power or renting identity, and the unsupported man must be especially careful with rented identity. Being near rich men does not make you rich. Being near creators does not make you creative. Being near entrepreneurs does not make you an operator. Being near power does not make you powerful. Proximity can inspire, but it can also sedate. It can make you feel like you are moving when you are only standing near movement. Do not confuse proximity with progress. Progress leaves evidence. Skill improved. Proof created. Offer sharpened, money earned, reputation strengthened, standards enforced. If those things are not happening, your networking may only be theater, a way to avoid the harder work of becoming undeniable. And this is where Machiavelli would cut deepest. He would tell you that dependence is not merely inconvenient, it is dangerous. Because the dependent man cannot protect his own interests. He cannot speak freely. He cannot negotiate cleanly. He cannot leave bad arrangements. He cannot preserve dignity under pressure. He must always calculate what the stronger party will allow. That is not freedom. That is permission-based existence. And no man building power should accept that as his foundation. So here is the final law. Need people less before you deal with them more. This does not mean become cold. It means build enough leverage that your relationships are chosen, not begged for. Build enough proof that introductions are useful, not necessary. Build enough visibility that no single person controls your access. Build enough skill that you can recover from rejection. Build enough money that you do not sell your standards cheaply. Build enough self-command that attention from powerful people does not intoxicate you. Then network, then collaborate, then enter rooms, then form alliances. But enter as a man who brings something, not as a man hoping to be carried. Because anything carried can be dropped. And the man who depends on being carried must always please the hands beneath him. That is the hidden cost. Access becomes obligation. Obligation becomes silence. Silence becomes compromise. Compromise becomes control. And by the time a man realizes the price, he may already have forgotten what his own voice sounds like. Do not let that happen. Do not sell your independence for early access. Do not mistake proximity for power. Do not call dependency a relationship. Do not call obedience strategy. Build first. Become useful. Become visible. Become proven. Become clear. Become capable of walking away. Then people stop being saviors. They become options. And options are the beginning of power. The man who needs access too early enters every room already owned. But the man who builds leverage first enters differently. He does not ask, "Will you let me belong?" He asks, "Is there a reason for us to trade value?" That is the posture of power. And until you can stand in that posture, your mission is not networking. Your mission is construction.